Still talking about it. So for
Okay.
everybody that just jumped on, put your questions in the chat while I'm talking so we can talk about
Yeah. Yeah. Does anybody in Buford while we're here have any questions they want to ask?
still talking about it.
Okay. All right. Well, then
So
let's
for
go
everybody,
ahead and introduce yourself. We are live. We are streaming. We are recording. Ashley, who are you?
oh my gosh,
Who are you?
I'm a 10.
Yes,
To
you
play
are.
Allison's. Yeah, I've been in the business for 10 years. I'm sure some people on here don't know me. So I've been in real estate for 10 years. 4.5 of those years, I was a transaction coordinator on our team, and I was negotiating about 100 deals a year. And when I say negotiating, the agent would land the file on my desk, and I would do everything from appraisal negotiation, repair negotiation, talking to them, 6, 7 o'clock at night. I was hands-on in the transaction versus just scheduling inspections or scheduling the attorney. So I got a lot of knowledge during that time because I was doing everything. And so I probably, while I was an admin, did close to 500 deals. And then Terry and I, my other admin, worked really close together, bouncing ideas off of each other for seller deals. So, I mean, I've seen probably, thousands and thousands of inspection reports helping agents. So I'm very excited. It's something I love because I think I just came into the business and was trained on this to really get to know parts of the house. What is CSST bonding, the gas and electrical bonding? What does that cost? What does it entail? How much is it to I don't know, change a garbage disposal. So I just asked the right questions to our vendors and then could curate those lists because a lot of the same inspection items kept happening over and over again. So when you guys are walking through the house and you're looking at a window seal, like call a window company and ask them how much it is to replace one piece of glass. So you're knowledgeable while you're walking through the house before you even get to inspections. So I think the biggest thing I can tell you is it's all about the setup. You have to keep reminding people from when you show the house all the way through the transaction. And in my presentation, we'll talk about how to get people on your side. So I'm going to share my slides so I don't go off topic, but I do have quite a good background in repair negotiations, and it's fun for me to strategize on how to win, how to, again, get everyone on your side and move it forward. Where is it? Here it is. Present. All right. So some of this might be a little basic, if you've been in the business a while, but I like to just run through it quickly. And then if you guys have any questions while I'm talking or specific examples, how would you have handled this? Let's just go through it. I know Anna mentioned, she's like, oh, I had a crazy one with flashing and all the things. I recently, as a listing agent, just got a $28,000 request from a buyer with literally no backup. The only thing they sent over was, oh, here's the $2,000 quote for a deck repair. And I'm like, where's the validation for this? So, like Anna mentioned, people are not backing up what they're asking for. They're just throwing out numbers, hoping it sticks because of the different market we're in. So you just got to hold steadfast. You have to know your stuff to go back to them, and you have the leverage. So I got to move everyone's faces around here. All right. So, stages of negotiation. How do you get started in reading the reports? What to consider before you make a request, which I feel like everybody's just kind of throwing things out and seeing what sticks. It's all about the setup, not only with your clients while you're in the house, but it's also the setup when you're talking with agents negotiating the deal. How do you structure the repair request? Is it a credit? Is it actually asking for repairs? And how do you get all parties on your side? Because that's the number one thing. We don't need to be the heroes here. We need to figure out how to get buyer and seller to agree on something and move the transaction forward. We always want that little extra $1,500. Ooh, we could get an extra 2,000, and your seller or your buyer might not care about that. So you need to kind of let that piece go because I had that happen to me when I started out. So, the one thing that drives me nuts the most when I moved down here was I didn't know anything about real estate. And I went to Google and then I would ask the inspector and then I would ask our contractor, Chris. And so start there first, right? ChatGPT, Google is your best friend. I was just asking about wiring for a house that's 1962 we're putting an offer in, and I just was talking about what wiring is in that house. Romex is the wiring that they're still using today because I know right around that time frame they had aluminum as well. So Google that, just ask ChatGPT. I had a whole conversation about the wiring and what could potentially be wrong with it. Research the main parts of the house. Do you know the difference between a gas pack? That's a HVAC, a gas pack, a heat pump, a furnace. Like, look and see what they look like and research them just a little bit more so you know when you're out in the field with your clients. Connect with a contractor like I did. Find someone that you can call and talk about, different things that keep coming up on your inspections, because those are going to help you get to the next step and make it easier. And you're not going to feel so much pressure. And you're not going to get people that go, I want to terminate the deal, because you've already advised them and you've already constructed the way that things are going to happen. Again, that goes back to the setup. So here's some of the things that keep coming up, for anyone, especially if you don't know what we're doing, right? PEX piping is very common right now. You have PVC pipe, copper, was early 1900s and into the 1950s. You might see copper and plastic in houses now. That flexible pipe is always going to come up if it's underneath your bathroom. It will come up on the inspection. Galvanized cast iron, you see that in older homes, especially going out to the street. I've been seeing a lot more people right now get, not for me personally, but for on my team, and I'm thinking about having some of my clients do it, sewer scopes, because of the tree roots intruding. Like for whatever reason, we've seen that a lot more. So keep in mind that potentially whoever you have as an inspector could add a sewer scope on to see if you guys have any root intrusions, because the cities will not pay from your house to the road where it connects if there's a big issue, and it can be very expensive. Types of flooring, we all know. I mean, LVP is huge, right? Luxury vinyl plank or engineered hardwoods. You just be aware, if you're walking through a house and there's damaged floors, like, can you resand those? Don't tell them they can, and they might not be able to, because a lot of people are getting away from straight wood floors. Types of siding. We have masonite in our area. I don't know if you guys have that in South Carolina. Basically, it's that pressed particle board. You see nail holes in some of that siding. You have fiber cement that can look very similar. We have vinyl siding. Sometimes you can see stucco, but being aware of that. In the middle of my screen, there's gray piping. You have one that has copper, and you see one that's plastic. That is polybutylene piping. That had a class action lawsuit, not exactly sure when, but a lot of homes in the 80s and 90s will have this piping in our area. And the pipes with the copper fitting is better than the plastic. Most inspectors are going to say it's a matter of time, like termites, when it's going to leak. But you just have to realize, like, how large is the house? How many connections do you have? Is there only one bath in the house? To me, I would probably take the risk, because insurance will pay if there's damage. Most of the time, I'm not an insurance company, so call them. They're not going to pay to replace your pipes, but if you do have a break, most times, if you talk to them about it before, if there's never been a leak, they will cover you, and they will cover any leaks in your house. So same thing with furnace and the heat pump. Just figure out which one you have, look at the gas pack, look at different pictures of them. So when you're outside, you can kind of be knowledgeable with your clients on that. And then also, while you're walking through the house, not that this is the be all end all, and I would caveat saying, hey, I threw this in ChatGPT. If you can't find dates on some of these systems, look for the tag on the outside compressor for the HVACs. Look at the tag for the water heaters. If it doesn't say the date, which most of those do. And same thing on the furnace upstairs, or, wherever it is in your attic space and your crawl space. And you can throw that into ChatGPT and try to find approximate age. Now, just because it was manufactured a certain date doesn't mean it was installed that year. It could be installed a couple of years later if it was in the warehouse, but it will give you an approximate idea, and just let them know that's how you looked it up. So during repair negotiations, I feel like when I first started out around 2016, 2017, 2018, we were doing everything. So basically, a buyer would go into the house, they would do their inspection report, and they would ask for quite a bit of items on the report. We would take that report in, we would send it to our contractor, Chris. He would estimate out everything on the report, and then we would basically just have him go do the work. This was on the seller side. Then when COVID happened and people were like, we're waiving all repairs, we're not going to do anything, we didn't really have to do much, right? Like, we got by with just selling houses and getting them through due diligence, because people had 10, 20, 30, 50 grand down. And now that we've shifted we're still in a seller's market here in Raleigh, but we've shifted into that. Hey, the buyers do have some leverage, because the sellers that are on the market now do want to move. and they're just throwing out numbers. So I think, depending on how the conversation went, if you know the sellers are very motivated, you may be able to get more and ask for $28,000, which we did not give them. But I think you just have to figure out how were negotiations in the front. Did the sellers budge? Were they flexible on pricing? Were there multiple offers? Because I think we're starting to see a little bit more of that come back. Did it take forever to hear back from them? Are you going to need more time because that listing agent doesn't respond? What's the seller's situation? Are they older couple that's already moved out? Is it a relocation? And that's going to show you which way you want to go besides asking for repairs to be done or asking for a credit because you want to make it as easy as possible. I would say probably 80% of mine have been credits versus years ago, it used to be more, let's just get the work done. How's the agent on the other side? Have you buttered them up from the beginning? Have you made them your friend? Do you, have a good relationship with them? Because I think so many people, like what Anna said, so many people can be combative right now. You want to be the hero. You're going to push and push. It's like, no, we're all trying to work towards a common goal of closing this house. We don't need to be the heroes. We need to do what's fair and we need to move it forward. So please do not start off being the one that's pushing back. And that was like one of the biggest things I learned when I first started in real estate. You do not need to be the hero, you need to be the connector. And this is not only for repair negotiations, this is from the beginning. For the little, 5,000 here, 5,000 there, we have to stop putting what we feel should happen on the transaction and letting the seller decide or letting the buyer decide, even if we feel they're giving up too much money.
Yeah, can I chat right there for a second?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I do think that this is too, like, if you have those like soft skills and like you can fill gaps in conversation, like this is where your business can really take off. Because like I did it yesterday, I showed a house that I know is overpriced and I know the listing agent knows it's overpriced. But I'm not gonna just like blindly send in a lowball offer. I'm not gonna text them and be like, this house isn't worth 1.7. Where'd you get that from? Like I literally left feedback that said, hey, like when you get some time today, give me a call, like want to discuss like what maybe this could look like. We get on the horn, and I have terrible rapport with this agent, by the way. I'm gonna be very honest with you. We've had a terrible transaction in the past. He called me yesterday. We talked through it, and like we left with common ground. He already knows that my people aren't at list price. He told me what's driving his sellers. Like we were able to get all of this out in the open. So when my offer comes in, he has all of the talking points he needs to set the proper expectation to see if we can get something somewhere. Just like I told my sellers or my buyers, we're not going to fart around for 3 days and try to figure out what's the lowest. We want to come in where you guys are willing to buy this house because of the gap. And only you can decide what that number is going to be. So like, I feel like we lost, and we talk about this a lot. I think we lost some of that during COVID because things were just moving so quickly. And now it's like we haven't come back to like, how do you have these conversations and like set expectations up properly? It's not just in, she said it, it's not just in negotiations around repairs. Like it should be from the very beginning. That's how you build rapport before the inspection report ever shows up. So I just think that like it is so, so important. And I'm back into some fundamentals. So I'm very passionate about this. Like this is where you move the needle. This is how you get more deals done a year.
Well, and that's what gives you the leverage, right? And it gives you that different perspective of getting everyone on your side. That's how it should be done. But we got into this very combative world of I'm right and you're wrong. It's like, no, we're both working towards the same thing. And I had one, we're putting in an offer on a house or working through numbers yesterday, and it was the same thing. The comps weren't supporting where the price was based on the previous sales. And so we said we want to put an appraisal addendum in there because there's clear evidence of what has sold and what hasn't and how many have sold over X amount of price. And I send that to the agent and I say, look, this is why we're coming in here. We could have went in at, let's just say 300. They're at 350. We could have went in at 300 and did the dance and tried to get to the middle. I gave you the supportive comps of probably what's going to happen, and we came in with a strong offer. So it's like, give some explanation and backing versus sending an offer out or sending an inspection report. Hey, this is why we're asking for this. This would go a long way. They would feel comfortable with X amount. But people are just trying to throw out high amounts now, as far as I've seen on anything, unless we're setting the right expectations. And then, you're just presenting it to your seller if you're on the list side and saying, this is what they're offering. Where do you want to go from here? There was one recently I felt they should have responded with at least 5,000 less than they did. And they were like, look, we're fine with what it is. We're okay to move forward. And it's not my call because it's not my house. I can't be the hero and try to save the extra 5 grand, even though I feel it's very justified. I just have to move forward with what they do. So, I mean, this is kind of what we just talked about, right? It's about the setup. Have we, talked to our clients in the houses? This is what, we had the most terminations across the country last year is the data that I had. I don't know if Anna or Allison, you guys have seen that, but across the country.
December was the worst month since like I think like 2016 for terminations. I think like 30 some thousand, 40 some thousand contracts canceled. And I mean, I feel like we have things hanging on a thread constantly, right, gang?
Same here. Yep, we're all on edge and our nervous systems are wrecked because we've worked very, very hard to get the deals finally together and then they're just falling apart.
Yeah. I had this conversation with an agent last night. It's like, like you feel like even though it's at a certain point where everything's lined up, you're still terrified that if you don't do what somebody wants, like a deal might fall through. And we know how hard it was to get it under contract. So you're almost playing outside of the rule book and what contracts are saying because you're working so hard to keep deals stuck together because motivations are so low. So I think you're exactly right.
Yeah, you feel that like, ooh, well, do we have to give them what they're asking for just because we don't want them to walk away? And that's the reality is what is the seller's next step? Every single thing in pricing homes or in listing homes is price and motivation. Like that is it. In any market, it's price and motivation because how motivated are they to move? Where are we going to price it? Doesn't matter about the location. You price it right and someone's going to buy it. So that's the same thing with repairs. It's like, we need to make sure that we're looking at what is the seller's motivation or on the buy side, yeah, I mean, you're working for the buyer. So can you push it higher, but within reason? And then that's where we get the frustrated combativeness is we feel like people are just throwing out numbers that are unsubstantiated, which is the most irritating thing. So have some backup, have some, numbers from a contractor to back up your $30,000 request when 10 was generous, if you were going to get that. So have we talked to our clients in the house? In North Carolina, our contracts are written as is. Every home is sold as is. I mention that almost every time I'm in every separate house. Yes, our contract's sold as is, but if there's something that's not functioning properly, we're going to get that looked at and then look at the main mechanical ages because those are, of course, the most major issues and most money. We're looking things that are major health or safety concerns. Septic, well, right? We want the water to be working. Most people are going to do that. Again, they don't have to, but most people are going to do it. Radon, termite, leaks, or health hazards, gas leaks, water leaks, stuff like that. That's going to ruin the house moving forward if it doesn't close, let's say for a month or 2 months. Have I pointed any items out? I say I'm not an inspector. Window seals actually through the inspector board in our area are now listed as cosmetic, but the inspector is going to point out that you have a failed window seal, that the gas seal has failed on the windows, because aesthetically, of course, it doesn't look great. And people always go to, oh, it's not energy efficient. Okay, it might not be the most energy efficient, but it's not going to really have an impact. Wood windows are worse, right? Because you have more gaps and there's contraction and swelling and all that. So failed window seals, wood rot around the house can get very expensive. Older HVAC, like those are things that can be expensive. Have I given any rough estimates? Because people ask me all the time. You've got to bank that knowledge. You have to go into ChatGPT maybe or a contractor and ask them what those steps are and have a little bit in here so that you can be one step ahead of your client. Once the inspection report's back, are you guys prepping your clients versus them coming to you and freaking out? That's where we go back to the terminations. I think when there's a market where we have so much inventory, I say so much, we still don't have a lot of inventory, but we have more inventory available than we've had in years. In Raleigh in 2024 December versus 2025 December, we have 38% more inventory in the triangle. That's a lot of options for buyers. So if I don't have a lot of due diligence, non-refundable deposit down, and something comes back on the inspection report I don't like, I have time because I'm renting and I have more options because there's more houses out there. I may terminate and just instantly go, I'm not connected to this house anymore. So I love to get the inspection report, send it to my clients, know when it's coming, and then say, hey guys, here's my thoughts, and bullet point out the most important items, and let's set up a time to go through it, because we're just blindly leaving people with all this information. They're freaking out that the house is going to fall down. So, I mean, here was just an example of a radon issue, or a radon, and I think I had the engineer. So, we have a lot of structural things that come up. Oh, there's a hairline crack here. There's something going on, and we don't know yet. The inspector can say, if further concern exists, please contact a structural engineer, or they can say, contact a structural engineer if it's bigger. So it kind of leaves it open in a gray area. So I send them something that says, please find the summary report. One of the items I wanted to get your input on is the hairline crack in the foundation. I wanted to get your thought on those, and if you're interested in having a structural engineer out to the home, because now I'm bringing it up again. I'm ensuring that they respond to me and tell me if they want someone out there or not, because this could be maybe a larger issue. It's most likely not, but now they've made the decision if they're going to have someone out there and then not come back to me and say, we didn't talk about this. So I think that's really important to get things in writing like that if you have people that are concerned. Radon, we don't have to mitigate over 4.0, or if it's over 4.0, we need to mitigate, or it's suggested, but a seller still doesn't have to do it. So, playing to, look, my clients are going to have children in the home. This is a big safety issue for them. We know it's not at the 4.0, but they are probably going to need to put a mitigation system in. Would you consider paying half? Like, think about what is actually you're going to get more bees with honey, and wanting to like bring them in and make them feel like, if this was you, what would you do? So those are just a couple examples. It's just flipping it just a little bit and not coming at someone aggressively, and just understanding, like, how do we get to the finish line, and present it in a way that doesn't feel like you're coming after everything. So this is just an example of one of the ones I sent. I know the HVACs are older upstairs. The air differential is 14, should be X, could be low on Freon. We don't know what it is. Do you want to get a company out for $175 to diagnose it? I don't think these people did. And then what happened? Like a year later or a half a year later, it goes out, and I'm like, well, I had the email. You got a home warranty at least, but we don't know what's going on with it. So this is what they agreed to. What do you think about these items? And then we could give a credit. We could ask for some repairs and some credit. So again, it's just tailoring and going out to them, asking them the questions of things that you think could come back to you, after they move in, because we're also looking at, okay, what things in the house, I'm looking around my house, like what things could come back to us, or what things could they be frustrated with? If you have these conversations up front, you have them in writing, you ask questions, like it's kind of hard to come back and say, oh, I didn't know about this, because we had the report and we all discussed it. I think we shy away from it because it's uncomfortable. Let's see what else. The same thing, what I just talked about. Are we creating the request and sending it to the client? Am I taking control of it? Because like I said, we all feel uncomfortable having these conversations. Here's what we should request. What do you think? You've got to run the transaction, because they have no idea. Could be their first home. I mean, if someone's only done it 1 or 2 other times, it's not that much. We've done it how many times in a year? 27 times last year, right? I had either people coming to me and asking for things, or I was asking them for something else. So I've had the chance to review it.
I think with that too, it's like, especially if you're doing a lot of transactions, you're thinking, well, what do you want? And they're thinking, this is the biggest purchase. I don't even know how to read this. Like, or, some people, like maybe they're dyslexic like me, and they get this 500-page report and they don't know what to read or how to look at it. And so I think the taking control aspect, sometimes it's not about being pushy. It's just about holding their hand and walking with them. And if they say, no, we want this, I mean, don't be combative, obviously. It's just, well, help me understand why. I mean, maybe they've had a past experience where their mom had gotten a house and had to replace the roof because of whatever, right? And so I think it's about just like having that open conversation with the client to figure out what is important to them, because what might not scare us might scare the crap out of them.
Mm-hmm. And then on the sell side, kind of what Anna said of the way that the market we're in, if you're okay responding, let's say they ask for 15 grand and we come in with 2 or 3, if you're okay that they walk away, then I'm okay. But this is what can happen. They've already expressed they're, really upset, whatever it is. Like, as long as you put that back to them and go, that's fine. We can definitely respond this way. I might consider responding with half, 7,500. In the long run, is the 3,500 going to make a big difference if we have to put it back on market and then potentially take lower? If you're okay with them walking away, I don't know that they will, but if they do, then I'm okay with it. And it's that kind of, companionship, but a little bit of the takeaway. Like if they really are okay with it, then you just have to do what they say, right?
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. And on the buy side, I mean, same thing. It's like, do we want to go in crazy high and really alienate the seller to not give us anything? To me, it was like 30,000 was ridiculous. So why don't we come in with something more reasonable, like a 15, and hope to land on 10? And if you set them up for the next step because you know either as a listing agent or a buyer agent what's going to happen next, hey, let's ask for 15. They might come back with 7. Let's hope to land on 10. Well, then you've already put it in their mind that if I get 7, great. If I get 10, it's a bonus. Like you've got to forecast where you're setting them up in their mind to feel like they're getting something because we know the dance. We know already how people are going to play this game. And so if we can kind of set that up, then that takes that pressure away because they're stressed from the beginning of finding the house. They're stressed going under contract and turning over that money. And then they've got to worry about the appraisal. And then they've got the inspection report. So they have a lot of stress on them. And it's your job to lead them through it and take that piece off them and say, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to get my contractor to quote the inspection report. Here's the things I suggest. This is the way we're going to do it. And then you can ease them through the transaction. The terminations happen when the communication fails.
What
So,
Ashley's describing is the way that you show people the other side, which is all they're really hiring you for. They're hiring you for you to give them the vision of what the other side is going to look like. They're not hiring you to solve every single problem. They're not hiring you to make sure that the process has no problems whatsoever and that they get every single thing that they want. That's not what if you look at what your agreements tell you, that's not what you're signing up to do either. So I think that's where agents sometimes can miss it is like your number one job is to reaffirm that they're making good decisions. And you do that by showing them the other side and reiterating that step one gets us here, step two gets us here. That's what they're looking for. And that's why they don't want to go it alone because they want someone that can help forecast and show them where they're going. Because that's what they need to feel comfortable is to be able to see the vision and to get there and to be sure that they're going to get there, remotely unscathed.
hmm yeah. And a lot of times, I will see that the pullback or a termination or that feeling of like, I don't know if this is the right house for me will come up and be able to blame the inspection, but it's really maybe something going on internally. So I think you have to understand that too. Like, tell me more about what's going on because they may say, I don't want this house. It's too much over here. And you're like, wait a second, I'm reading this report. There's something else underlying going on here. And sometimes it's like the buyer because they feel guilty will need something to blame. So that's okay if they want to walk away. Go show them 5 more houses. I've had that happen too. And see what else is on the market comparative to theirs. We could run into these same issues in these 5 houses, but you have to let them feel the process and go through it.
Another thing that I think we're talking about the setup and we're talking about directing, like being directly with our sellers and then agents talking to their buyers, right? But what I think sometimes we miss as well is if I'm the listing agent, I don't know how the buyer's agent is going to react to the things and if they're going to take that message to their buyer, right? Like me as a buyer's agent, I don't take drama back to my buyer. If an other agent on the other side is like combative or says something, I'm not going to go back to my buyer and be like, this is what they said. No, I'm just going to keep it nice and clean. But there's listing agents that'll come back or they'll say like, this is a joke. We're not doing this. Well, is that your reaction or is that the seller's reaction? Because a lot of times the seller doesn't even know yet. They haven't said anything. Yeah. And if you're not careful, that buyer's agent might react and go to their buyer and be like, we're done. They said this is ridiculous. The seller doesn't even know yet. The seller hasn't even gotten a whiff of this. And next thing you know, the agents are blowing up the deal because of their reactivity or because of their ego. And we had something similar happen recently where it's like, you're reacting as a listing agent because we've asked for these repairs that are very warranted, right? But are you reacting that way because you're scared to go to your seller and say, hey, we're asking, the buyers are now asking for X? And it's like, don't let that reaction show. Don't let that emotion show to the other side, because that buyer's agent could just as easily go to the buyer and freak them out. Mm-hmm. And the seller has no clue of what's going on or what's being asked. And they might very well say, I'm going to be honest, we're done with this house. We want to be out. And $22,000 doesn't sound like that much to just let us be done in 15 days. So we as agents have to be very careful of how we let our emotions show, and what we remove from letting the buyer see on the back end until it's really time. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I mean, we know most agents are selling 1 to 4 homes a year or 1 to 6 homes a year. So it's like, we're going to have, like, a lot of times it's us having to coach them. I talk about this in my listing presentations. I might have to coach new agents that are on the other side of your transaction that sell 3 homes a year. So it's not just the initial conversation of like the setup of like getting us under contract. I may have to coach them through repair negotiations because they haven't done it very often. Right. So like that is another thing that I talk about of like my value in, I mean, this is a random thought, but I do talk about inspections because this is where people get hung up, and just coaching them through the transaction when they're feeling uneasy because they might not be able to speak to their client properly about things.
Yeah, that's a really good point. There's so much more. This is so much deeper than just how do you negotiate inspections, right? It's how do you control the emotion? How do you hold the buyer's hand and walk them through the next steps? How do you help the seller see that we could easily take this away if you want to go back on the market, but now we have these latent defects that we're aware of and we know, and there's so much deeper than just one thing.
Yeah. I always try to be one step ahead. Like, how can I get one step ahead? What are going to be, and Tina taught me this, what are like the next 3 things so that I can be ahead of that? What are the next 3 responses I'm going to get? If we're at X, if we're at 15 grand, they're going to come back at 7. Most people want to land in the middle. Or if we're at 15, they might come back at 5. Let's hope to land on this. So just thinking a couple steps ahead, I think gets you a lot. How much time do I have? Ooh, it's 9. Oh, shoot. Okay, let me run through this real quick. Repair. So think about repair or credit. If it's a major thing like a structural issue or HVAC, you may want to ask for that to be repaired because that is something that, could be more expensive. Are the people in town, do they just want a credit? So repair versus a credit, like just think through that a little bit. Most people want to just do a credit because
Hi, how are you? Good. I'm gonna be a while. Do you need to jump in?
Check. You can cut checks at closing, like on a due diligence request. We could have a $10,000 check cut to a contractor at closing, and that just goes on the settlement statement. So you have to check with your don't check with the lender, but check with your attorney and just make sure that's okay. But sometimes we do that if there's a big piece of work that we need to have done post-closing. So just, again, be nice. Don't be the hero. Think like the listing agent or buyer's agent. How will they receive the information, and use the right language to get people on your side? Acknowledge the, acknowledge the seller. I know, I totally completely understand where they're coming from. You sometimes, by giving a little bit, you have the upper hand. So I think we always think, oh, I'm giving it and giving this. And sometimes that actually, us holding that or giving them what they need, is giving us leverage because we're getting the house closed. And that's it. I was like, oh shoot, how many more slides do I have?
Hey, I have a question I think it's worth talking about, because I also typically will fall in the camp of, I don't really want sellers to have to make a lot of the actual repairs, because when that happens, we got to go back. We're now responsible for the reinspection, like, the timeline with contractors of getting stuff done. But when you're looking at stuff and you're deciding, are we going to do a credit at closing, or do we want the seller to go ahead and handle it? There's benefits to both, right? Because if it's something that when they open it up, there could be more stuff that's lying there that we didn't see. So sometimes it can be better for the seller to be involved. Like, what's kind of your threshold on making that decision of like, I'm going to take cash on this, or I feel like this is something where like we really want to see it like come to completion, and know that my buyer is taken care of, and that there's not going to be any unknowns, and the money's not going to stretch far enough when they go to do it themselves.
I think that if I'm getting the estimates, if there was something that was really important to me, like a structural issue, that I was like, we should really try to have this done. So there's two things to that. I want to get the estimates because I trust my contractors who I'm having do that, if it's a big issue. And the second one is, my contractor that I use all the time for structural issues or whatever it is, he makes sure that it won't be more than that. So like if there is some latent things that come up, he will kind of take that piece, I think, for the most part on himself and just go, look, I went in the crawl space, I quoted it, I knew what was down here, and then he either builds in enough for a contingency piece or, he's just going to eat it because he just does so many that he wants to make sure he gets through the transaction. So I would say if I feel that it could be more expensive, I may have them do it, but I'd prefer to use my contractor. If they have someone and I feel like it's a pretty straightforward thing and they're going to do it and they're adamant about doing it, then I let them do it. But yeah, I think recently we went from doing everything before COVID to doing nothing to back to either doing something or I'm seeing mostly credits now.
Mhm.
That's my thought on that.
And remember, guys, like this is all like this is why you have to understand all the pieces of the puzzle because if you go send in, I had that one the other day where I was like, dude, I was like, you can send me this great, like I'm sure in your case, Ashley, what'd you say, like 30 some $1,000s in concessions? Like, guys, depending on loan types, like they can't even take that money. Like they can't even take it because they can't even apply it anywhere. So you do have to
Yeah.
like really understand like what's their loan type? Like, what's the strategy to make sure that these funds actually can be allocated appropriately? Are you working with attorneys that are comfortable paying vendors directly post closing, or are they going to make you open an escrow account? Do you understand what the difference between the escrow account is and the attorney? I promise you, just being able to have intelligent conversations around those things, that's what takes the guards down on your clients. And like Ashley said, sometimes the agents working across from you that don't have all these answers. So again, like this is a conversation about inspections, but what it really should show is like, do you really understand enough of the pieces of the puzzle to put it together? Because there's a lot of little nuances here, and no one's going to teach you these things. You know how we learned them? We learned them by going through transactions and figuring it out. It's a rep game. That's why these masterminds are so important because basically we're saying take our reps, like take our dumb moves where we thought we'd set an escrow account up and it was the dumbest thing we've ever done. And let's help you bypass that decision in this scenario. So I know Ashley will say this, but like call her, our partners, like call her, ask her, like, hey, what would you do? Call Allison. Hey, what would you do? Call me. Hey, what would you do? Because we do have the reps and we understand how the pieces fit together. I knew the other day with mine, I knew they just wanted their closing costs covered. You know why? I looked at the closing settlement statement and I saw what their closing cost was. It was 15 grand. It's 15 grand. That's where it came from. And right away, I was able to diffuse it because I was like, I know this is not rooted in actual needs for repairs. This is rooted in financial comfort or an easy number to grab. And so from there, negotiations got a lot easier, right? When we knew it wasn't a substantial number that was actually going to be something they were going to hold to. Let's
And I
just see
think
what they could
that
get.
I think that also goes back to like it's not about you and it's not about the seller and it's there's usually some underlying emotion involved, and the more confident that you are with your buyers, with your sellers, with the other agents, it removes the friction and it keeps the current going. And that's really what we're here to do. We're not here to be combative or to be like, I won. This is not a zero sum game. I don't win because you lose, right, Ashley? Like technically, if you lose, we both lost because the deal's gone. Like we win because we're both winning. Like we're both doing this and trying to get to the finish line together. So I think being confident and understanding this at a higher level is really where that game changes. Anna talked about that in the beginning, but these soft skills are where you level up and you go from 10 transactions to 20 transactions. It's not necessarily working harder in this business. It's being more confident and understanding how to keep your deals together.
Well, and it's leverage points, and it starts at the beginning.
Right.
If you don't
It's
have a
the
lot of
mental
deposit, yeah, your
It's
leverage
the
is
mental capacity too, because the thing is if you know that you can get a deal through negotiations, two things happen. Number one, you want to take more deals because you're not sitting there waiting for the shoe to drop. The second thing to that is you realize your value proposition is higher than another agent that someone might hire, and you will get innately more aggressive going after sales because you're going to say, hey, that 100, the 100 people sitting in my nurture pond right now, they're going to work with an agent and they can work with me who I know I can service them, or they're going to work with an agent that Ashley's mentoring on the other side because they don't know how to negotiate. So the other thing about this is it's not just like I'm good at negotiations. Being good at negotiations, understanding all these principles, they will get you more sales because your subconscious brain will stop trying to will make more forward progress because you know what you have to offer and you're going to want to present that to more people. So it's like you speed everything up, right? You just it all compounds and it goes into everything. It's not just an isolated part of the transaction. Like
Oh, the
you can't just
confidence
be
just
like,
comes
oh, I'm
from
not good at
knowing.
negotiations, but I'm good at
Yeah.
everything else. Like that's not how it works. You got to have like it's got to be a wheel and you got to be balanced. So you got to figure this stuff out if you haven't.
And the thing is, I'm pretty good at pricing homes, right? Like if I know that the price is the price, I talked to this with one of our team trainers. Last year was really hard for me because of the market shift and the pricing issue, and that really did bring down my confidence. And so it's like, okay, then we looked at my deals and we went, okay, which ones did I price and felt really good about the price, and which ones did the sellers push me a little bit, and how many days on market were there to show like where I felt. And it was true. The ones that I felt very confident and very knowledgeable on had the lower days on market because I stuck with my price. And I still feel that I haven't arrived on pricing, but I do feel like I've arrived on repairs. And the only reason I feel that is because I worked it for 5 years doing 100 to 130 deals a year. That is what I did. And so for us to get better, I mean, Tina talks about this all the time. She always told me real estate was a 4-year degree when I first started. I wasn't going to know everything, but in that 4th year and 5th year, you start to get that power where you feel more confident. And for this, I asked the question. I was annoying. I went to the inspections. I went to the inspectors, the contractors. Like, for you to get really, really good at something, you've just got to study it. And I haven't done as much studying as I want to feel at my top level for pricing, in the market, in the data, and all the things. So whatever it is, just go dive into it, do a little bit more. And, through just listening to that, I'm realizing like I'm so confident in this, like bowling, because I'm amazing at bowling, but I might not be great at soccer because I haven't done it. But it's like I could just walk in and be like, I'm gonna beat every man in this room at bowling because I'm so good at it, like negotiations. But I want to get better at pricing and feel really good and confident that the market is not gonna, it is what it is with the market, and we're just gonna have to read the tea leaves. So anyway, that was my 2 cents on that too.
That's amazing.
Great.
This
Go
was
get
great.
my car.
We want to respect everybody's time. Everybody in the Beaufort office.
Ashley has to leave.
I have to leave. I gotta go do this again. I'm so
Bye,
excited.
guys.
Bye.
We'll announce our speaker for next week soon. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Happy Wednesday.
You stopped recording, so it's fine.
I know it was my note taker though, but you're still on. You're still on.
Oh
Instagram.
no!
Oh,
Okay.
Beth, this is Allison, my partner in Beaufort. Allison, this is Beth. She was in our